In accordance with the New Jersey Public Laws of 1975, Chapter 231, Section 5, adequate notice of the hearing has been provided by notifying the Newark Star Ledger and the Jersey Journal newspapers. Also, the schedule of regular hearings and conferences of the Newark Central Planning Board has been posted on the designated bulletin board in the basement of Newark City Hall and filed in the office of the city clerk in January 2025. In addition to adequate notice under the Open Public Meetings Act, electronic notice of this remote public hearing, as is permitted under NJSA 10.4 and 9.3, was also placed on the City of Newark website. Members of the public can make public comments by audio or by audio and video as permitted by the Zoom electronic communication platform. Now, while in this meeting, press raise hand on your computer or mobile device. Raise hand allows participants to notify the host that they would like to speak without interrupting them. If you are calling in, press star 9 on your telephone to raise your hand. The Newark Central Planning Board will be mindful of the number of items on the agenda and will move as expeditiously as possible to complete the agenda. However, due to the amount of development requiring board review and the complexity of projects, it may not be possible to hear every item if the meeting runs later than 11 p.m. In the event that the agenda is not complete by 11 p.m. tonight, the board will finish hearing the application, which they are in process of listening to, but no new application will be called. Any applications that were not heard by that time will be rescheduled to the earliest available date, which will be announced on the record if possible. The meeting of the Newark Central Planning Board will now come to order. Secretary, roll call, please.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yeah.
Commissioner Baez?
Present.
Commissioner Purdy?
Present.
Commissioner Timmons?
Present.
Commissioner Scott Roundtree? We have is absent. Commissioner De Silva?
Present.
Commissioner James?
Here.
Commissioner Austin?
Here.
Chair Richardson? We have is absent. Madam Chair.
Yes, before we
have a
head
quorum.
into the agenda on this evening, I would like to use a point of privilege to ask that we all give a moment of silence to reflect on our dearly departed former mayor, Mayor Sharp James. So if you could do this at this time. Thank you for your time and consideration. As we know, Mayor James sparked much of the development that presently, exists in the city. As a matter of fact, I'm sitting in a home that was built out of a Hope 6 collaboration with the federal government, and I'm definitely appreciative. I still have the letter that he sent to the new homeowners when we moved here 20 years ago. And I know that we, all of us are complicated individuals. And I just want us to remember the best of what it is that he brought to the city and to have his love for Newark in our hearts and our minds as we proceed in our service, especially this evening with the scope and scale of the applications that we are going to review. With that, we're going to start with application number 1. Is CPB 2503. The address is 892, 894 through 900 Broad Street. And Mr. Souter.
I don't know if you passed it off, Madam Chair, or not.
I called you.
Okay.
Handle your handle. Pull your people in. You see them, Carissa, they had their hands raised.
Yeah, this is my normal crew. So we have Murat Mutlu, we have Matt Seckler instead of Michaela today, Andrew Vicio and John McDonough. Um, the owner's rep is on the line as well, Daniel Spiegel. But I do note in advance that he did have a medical emergency today, so he may be limited in his capacity. Madam Chair, if I may, as well, being a child of Newark, I too think that it is only appropriate on this day where we are looking to do something so extensive that we acknowledge the individual who coined our Renaissance City as being just that, and coming up with some way out of no way, if you think about it, to build a baseball stadium in Newark, the Prudential Arena, um, putting the groundwork together for the Prudential headquarters, but also the feat that was in JPAC that most people would never be able to understand what it took to make that happen. So as I stand before you today, I just want to make sure that we acknowledge that history here in our city as I put before you something that I think will be something that he would be very proud of and happy to see. I present to you tonight two buildings, but the first building we refer to as 900 Broad Street. We are proposing right now in what is the shuttered City National Bank building across the street from City Hall that sits on the corner on Broad, right across from City Hall. We are proposing a 53-story mixed-use tower that consists of 446 residential units and 44 hotel rooms over a parking podium with approximately 12,860 square feet of ground floor space that will take up that corner there. It would be a tremendous change to what we currently see. And it also would begin the process of seeing towers coming into other areas downtown and headed towards South Broad Street. There was a previous project approved on this site. However, it has been completely reimagined for this board's purview today. I'll be remiss, we do have 202 valet parking spaces in total. Of that, there are about 11 or 12 that have been dedicated to the hotel portion, as they're required to have 1 to 4 parking, and the rest would be dedicated to the residential units. And in my typical fashion, I'm going to do my best to get 2 big buildings done in a relatively short amount of time. But I don't want to move too fast that folks feel as though I'm not giving this due for the hearing. So with that, we do have Matt Seckler, the project's engineer, here with us to provide testimony in reference to the engineering on this site.
So counsel, you ready to, okay, thank you, Mr. Sekela. Do you solemnly swear the testimony about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and affiliation to this application.
Certainly. My name is Matthew Seckler. That's Seckler. I'm with Stonefield Engineering Design. Address is 92 Park Avenue in Rutherford, New Jersey. I'm the licensed engineer, the civil engineer for this application.
Counsel, please qualify your witness.
Thank you, Matt. Can you go over your CV and let this board know if your license is active and current here in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I have an active and current license that's in good standing as a professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. Been accepted for this board and 150 other boards in the field of professional engineering. I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Union College in Schenectady, New York. As I mentioned, I've been practicing in this field for over 15 years.
Mr. Seckler, you're accepted by the board.
Thank you.
Thank you. Matt, you are on the engineering team for this particular project, correct?
Correct.
Can you please go over your plans and provide a overview of what is happening here?
Absolutely. And I'm going to share my screen, which is showing in a couple seconds the submitted site plan set. I'll zoom in on the first page to the aerial map, as Mr. Souter indicated. The site that we're talking about is at the intersection of Broad Street and Green Street. Just to the south of us is City Hall. You could see the dome of City Hall just within that 200-foot circle around the site. In the top right corner, you could see the beginnings of the Prudential Center, the corners of the Prudential Center to the top right of this image, this aerial map. We are removing or replacing the existing building on site and adding the brand new 490 total units, that 446 residential units and 44 hotel units to the site. The site itself is about 0.3 acres. It is lots 1 and 4 on block 865, and it's in the Living Downtown redevelopment plan. And clearly, you'll hear from our planner, but putting this number of units in your downtown clearly is complying and advancing the goals of that Living Downtown redevelopment plan. I'll move over to our site plan, which was sheet 4. Just to give a rough outline, you're going to see the beautiful pictures from our architect shortly. But from the civil engineering perspective, I just want to highlight a couple items as it relates to the project. To orientate the board, Broad Street is on the left side of the page. Green Street runs along the bottom of the page. Green Street is a one-way roadway heading towards the plan sheet right. We are proposing to have an entry driveway along Broad Street. You could see it here with the 2 in arrows pointing to as vehicles would enter the site. They would then be valeted through the vehicle elevator that's located on site, and you'll hear more about that from the traffic engineer. Exiting the site, they will exit via Green Street and be required to make a left turn out because Green Street is a one-way roadway to head off the page onto the right-hand side. I also want to highlight the fact that we do have a loading area internal to the building. This loading area would be able to have box truck deliveries, move in, move out maneuvers by a box truck basically coming down Green Street and backing into the loading area that is located along right over here on Green Street. Just want to highlight a couple things with this application as it relates to the bulk standards. Again, you'll hear from the planner, we're compliant with items such as density, height, and the vast majority of our bulk standards. We do have one small, I'm going to say de minimis deviation, and that's related to the fact that we have a 1.5 foot setback in the corner of the building off of the right-of-way line along Broad Street. And the reason for that is our lot is not a perfect rectangle, and there's a slight skew to the front property line. So as you can see here, we're at 0 feet off the front property line as required along the northern Broad Street corner. But as you go to the southern end, the property line is not straight. It's not perpendicular. So we end up being 1.5 foot off the property line with the edge of the building here. Again, nothing that anyone would notice. In fact, I think it's somewhat of a it helps with this corner of Green Street and Broad Street, which again tends to be a fairly busy corner. Getting a little extra kind of sidewalk space in there, I don't think is detrimental in any way. Just kind of reviewing the application in general. We are and we've made revisions to the plans to ensure that we have sufficient street trees. As you see here, we have street trees that are proposed along Broad Street and Green Street. We did have a TRC meeting on March 12th, 2025, in which a lot of engineering and design options and design discussions were had. We really are in general agreement with the suggestions at the TRC meeting, as well as the engineering review letters and planning review letters. We just want to highlight a couple of the items in which there were some additional discussion. We are required to have 2 loading areas. Again, we have the one internal to the building, but we're required to have another loading area that really would be best for kind of Uber drop offs or pickups, DoorDash type maneuvers, which would probably be best off on the street. There was a suggestion from in the engineering letter for a loading area along Green Street. Because of the proximity to City Hall and the fact that we do believe that a lot of the parking on Green Street kind of is utilizing City Hall, we do think that the best location for that is likely to be on Broad Street instead of Green Street. But that's clearly something we feel comfortable working out with your engineering department and planning department to identify where an on-street loading space is best for this application. But again, we have no issue with providing one. We would just want to make sure that all parties at the city are in agreement for where that loading location would be. We did receive the engineering and utilities review letters. We have no issues with complying and working with engineering staff as it relates to items such as the water lines and sewer lines in the area and any necessary upgrades. We will agree, and this was in your planner's letter, to provide updated lighting analysis within the garages to ensure that we meet proper lighting levels within the development. But overall, again, this site generally completely covered by the building itself, and you'll hear a lot of discussion about how that building looks from both the inside and all the amenities on the all how it looks on the outside and all the amenities on the inside. But again, from an engineering perspective, we have no issues with the engineering and planning letters, and we do believe this site has been designed to meet engineering standards. Calvin, you're on mute. I don't know if you're asking me a question, but
No,
okay,
I was waiting to hear if you were done or not.
I am done.
Great. Madam Chair, I will turn it over to the members of this group for questioning.
I'm looking for Mr. Trafficante to raise his hand. I'm surprised it's not up yet. Okay, while we're waiting for him, commissioners, do any of you have any questions for Mr. Sackler?
Yes.
Commissioner Purdy?
You guys take into consideration of the parking in that area for the residents coming in and out of City Hall and the courthouse? And the business, daily business all day down City Hall? It's rough getting through Green Street every day.
Oh yeah, it clearly is a busy corridor over here.
And the potential there, you can't get through when they got something going on down there.
Can I just note that we do have a traffic engineer who will speak to this very specific issue? And I think you'd be very pleased to hear the outcome of that testimony once it comes, Commissioner Purdy.
Thank you. Mr. Trafficante?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Trafficante. Do you solemnly swear the testimony about to give this board shall be truthful?
Do.
Thank you. Briefly, just identify yourself for the board.
My name is Charles Trafficante. I'm a principal engineer and a professional engineer. I'm an employment at the City of Newark, Department of Engineering. My license is active and in good standing with the State Board.
All right, you're accepted. Please present your questions.
Mr. Seckler, I guess you're providing testimony today as either the traffic engineer or the site engineer. Which is it now?
Just the site engineer tonight. You will hear from Mr. Vishio, my associate, who's the traffic engineer.
All right. In the review memo by T&M Associates to the Planning Board dated May 8th, there was a request for testimony, but the 3 monitoring wells you got in the public right of way on Green Street in front of this property. Can you address what are they there for? Are they to remain? Will they be abandoned? What's the future disposition? Catch my drift?
I catch your drift. Yeah, so we have been investigating that. What I will say regarding the those conditions is that we are not able to remove them at this point, but we'll continue to provide the city with information prior to doing any type of work related to those monitoring wells. We don't have the history on them at this point, though.
So you have no idea what they're there for and whether they've been addressed by the DEP, LRSP, anything like that?
Correct. All I can promise is we're not touching them until we know what they are.
All right, well, so does that mean you can move forward and build until you find out?
No, we will find out before we build.
But you have no idea now.
At this point, no.
All right. And what about on Broad Street? I believe there's metered parking spaces there or remnants of metered parking spaces. Have you contacted the Newark Parking Authority to find out the disposition on those? Whether, you can abandon them during construction, if you plan to remove them in their entirety, they're gonna want money from you. You know the story, right?
Oh, I know the story regarding removing spaces that generate revenue within the city. You'll hear from our traffic engineer regarding what spaces we anticipate removing, and obviously we'll be in compliance with whatever the city parking and traffic believes we owe as part of removing any parking spaces.
As Calvin Souter here, I would like to supplement that to note that we have been in touch with the parking authority in reference to all of the parking spaces that would be in front of the building and whether or not they would be removed during construction. We do not believe that they will be usable. But so we have started that conversation, and the parking authority has begun working on their rubric that they have for this to happen.
Well, based on what your plans show for your entrance driveways off of Broad Street, you're gonna lose at least 1 to 2 spaces.
Correct. That is true. They got to determine how much we owe for that, though.
Correct.
All right. And as far as city shade trees, do you know if you comply?
We will comply. I think an earlier version of the plan, I think was short one. We will have made revisions to the plan and we will comply.
All right, well, I know if you can't because of utilities, you're gonna have to have a meeting with the city arborist, the board planner, and my office. Especially if it requires use of a planter, if that's acceptable to the city arborist and the board planner.
Correct. We believe we'll be able to comply, but again, if we cannot, we understand a meeting would be required.
Right. All right, no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trafficante. Commissioners, do any of you have any questions for Mr. Seckler to follow? All right, seeing none. Who's your next professional, Mr. Souter?
Thank you. I think this is the guy who Mr. Purdy was waiting to question. Mr. Vicio, our traffic engineer, is my next witness.
Good evening, Mr. Vicio. Do you solemnly swear the testimony about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and affiliation to this application.
Andrew Vicio, V as in Victor, ISCHIO. I am the applicant's traffic engineer.
Can you
Thank you,
qualify
counsel.
your professional?
Yes, Andrew, you've appeared before this board, correct?
I have on several occasions.
And your license is still active here in New Jersey?
Correct. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. My license is active and in good standing, and I am an employee of Stonefield Engineering and Design located at 92 Park Avenue, Rutherford, New Jersey.
Mr. Vicio, you are accepted by the board. You can proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. Andrew, you did a parking study in reference to this particular project, correct?
Correct. And I can, that is correct.
Can you go through that study and keep in mind that the commissioner has already asked a very important question in reference to the parking there now and how that will be resolved so that the community can continue to move. Given that right now it tends to be very difficult. We know that the city vehicles tend to double park on that side. There's also just regular parking that takes place there. Then there's also getting out in and out of probably the largest surface parking lot in the city. And the city then has its own parking garage on the corner there, which tends to have to oftentimes create a bit of a cluster there. Can you just, as you go through it, just be mindful of that and try to anticipate the follow-up questions that Commissioner Purdy would have?
Certainly. So I'm going to share my screen and again display the submitted site plan sheet set. So on behalf of the application, our office prepared a traffic impact study dated September 18th, 2024, last revised March 27th, 2025. That traffic impact study goes into parking related issues, as council mentioned. The report was prepared in accordance with industry standards. It details our efforts to establish existing traffic conditions, project the future traffic associated with the proposed development, and also includes a summary of our capacity analysis. Similar to the site on Mulberry Street that I presented a month or so back, the most unique aspect of the proposed development from a traffic perspective, in my opinion, is how parking would be handled on site. So I am going to utilize what we're viewing here for the purposes of discussing how that would operate. Access would be via access to the site would be solely via right turn ingress movements from northbound Broad Street. This driveway would facilitate ingress traffic, and all egress traffic would utilize the proposed Green Street driveway and make a left turn out of this site. The proposed development would provide 202 parking spaces, and the parking system would be handled exclusively by valet operators. The way the valet system works is a resident of the building or a hotel guest would arrive to the site, enter via Broad Street, and the driver would park in one of the 8 valet stacking areas that are on this first floor. At that time, a valet driver would take one of the 2 vehicle elevators and either go down a level to the cellar level or up to the first or second levels. So there are 3 levels of parking for this building. Once on one of those parking floors, the valet driver would park in a mechanical lift and then take the stairs up or down, depending on where they parked the vehicle. And then they would return to repeat the process again. The submitted traffic impact study goes into thorough detail for how long each step of that process would take. But on summary, it would take on average 3 minutes and 25 seconds for one valet driver to complete this process. Assuming a staff of 6 valet drivers, each would have 1 minute and 35 seconds of downtime. So there is a factor of safety built into our capacity calculations. A staff of 6 valet drivers could process 72 ingress vehicles in a single hour, which is approximately 2.5 times greater than our anticipated peak ingress demand of 29 entering vehicles during the weekday evening peak hour when people may be returning home from work. The 8 ingress stacking spaces is intended to prevent queuing from spilling back onto Broad Street. However, if there is an unexpected influx of traffic, the valet drivers can also utilize 2 of these egress parking spaces for ingress vehicles, increasing that capacity to 10 stacked vehicles. They would just have to leave 1 travel lane available for egress vehicles. For residents that are leaving the site, buildings with this type of parking system typically use a mobile app, which allows them to reserve times for when they would like their car brought down to leave for the day. Regarding the parking supply, we are providing 202 physical parking spaces. With the 20 parking space electric vehicle parking credit, we are considered to provide 222 parking spaces, whereas 238 spaces are required. So we are just 16 parking spaces short of that requirement. However, given the context of the area, we certainly anticipate that this site would attract a high percentage of residents that choose to not own a vehicle. Specific for this census tract that this site is located in, 67% of residents living in this area take public transportation, carpool, walk, bike, use rideshare, or work from home. The subject property is approximately a 15-minute walk from Penn Station, and there are 17 NJ Transit bus routes that are available in the immediate vicinity of the site at Broad Street and Hill Street in the southbound direction, and at Broad Street and Lafayette Street in the northbound direction. Regarding loading operations, as my colleague Matthew testified to, there is one loading area within the building. This loading area could be accessed by your standard mail carrier truck via the Broad Street driveway. Anything larger than that would have to utilize the Green Street driveway and back into the site. So a box truck type vehicle would have to utilize Green Street. The potential for a passenger loading zone for rideshare like Uber and Lyft pickup was discussed at the technical review meeting, as Mr. Seckler mentioned. We've identified 3 options that would achieve that goal. The applicant is amenable to all 3 options. We would just like the opportunity to continue the discussion with the engineering department on which is preferred. The first option being signed parking restrictions along Green Street. The second option would again just be signed parking restrictions along the Broad Street site frontage. And the third option is a bump in along the Broad Street frontage, which would narrow the Broad Street sidewalk, but certainly would still provide enough clear width for ADA maneuvering. Again, the applicant is agreeable to all 3 options, and we agree to work with the engineering department to select the option that is the most desirable to the city. With respect to events at the Prudential Center, I have visited the site on numerous occasions for routine, I would say regular type of events at the Prudential Center, like a Devils game. Green Street, in my observations, has not been closed. I have not attended a video music awards event or an event of that size, but I did conduct some research to understand how Green Street is utilized during an event of that scale. So specific to the 2023 MTV Video Music Awards, there were road closures from Friday, September 8th through Wednesday, September 13th. So many days of road closures. However, Green Street itself was only closed for 7 hours on one of those days. So I say that to emphasize that the closure of Green Street based on my research, is a relative infrequent occurrence relative to, say, Mulberry Street along the Prudential Center site frontage, which is closed for every event. In the case of a special event where Green Street would be closed, the building management would work with city officials to determine the best way that traffic could be facilitated into and out of the site. We have many options. The access to the site could be reversed with egress traffic onto Broad Street, or the closure could begin after the site, after the Green Street driveway. So many options at our disposal in the what I have found to be a relatively infrequent occurrence of a Green Street closure due to an event at the Prudential Center. That concludes my direct testimony. Be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Purdy. Fire
Yeah.
away.
So on Broad Street, right? There's 4 lanes, 1 for parking on Broad Street and 3 for cars to go through. So what happens when you get backed up there? You take another lane away from it. It's gonna be 2 lanes to get down the street. Correct?
The way that the site has been designed is for there to be enough on-site queuing to not spill back onto Broad Street.
So you telling me you're gonna have 6 guys on hand whenever's needed? That's what you telling me?
I'm speaking to the proposed condition.
Yeah. So what is the reality of that, though? I'm saying you're not gonna have 6 guys on hand. You don't know that.
The
Just that.
applicant. No, I understand, and the applicant is committed to, proper staffing, and it has been we've been agreeable on similar projects to a condition for proper staffing levels, and I'm sure we would have no concerns with stipulating that again.
So question, is the valet parking, is this just for
Commissioner
residents
Austin, let me
only?
just read your name into the record.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Austin.
So is the valet parking just for like the residents and the hotel guests? So if I'm a resident and I'm entertaining, my guests would not have access to the valet parking, correct?
Correct.
How would you know the difference? Are you gonna have like decals or something for, like, how does that work?
Sure. So we can work with the engineering department on a signage package that would reinforce that who has permission to utilize the driveway, and I'm sure that who can park in the garage would be part of any lease agreement that the residents would be made aware of, and convey that information to their guests.
And hotel guests don't have access.
Yes, hotel guests would have access. There would be approximately 11 parking spaces set aside explicitly for hotel guest use.
Thank you.
If I may, Madam Chair, Andrew, you testified that the stacking levels that you have, is it accurate to reflect that the stacking levels is twice as much as you would need for the available parking that is there?
Yes, that is accurate. The percentage likelihood of all 8 stacking spaces being utilized during that peak ingress period is very low. I would say your typical utilization would be on the order of 3 to 4 vehicles. Yes, to that extent, we are providing more on-site stacking capacity than we anticipate is needed for this amount of parking capacity.
And you also testified that we are committed to, as a condition of approval, to ensuring that there is adequate valet parking attendants on staff at all times. And that would mean at 6 valet members. Is that correct?
Correct. All of our calculations are based on a staffing level of 6 employees.
Thank you. And when we did our technical review, the engineering department, do you recall that the engineering department had some concerns about this particular area, particularly the side street, correct? And
Correct.
is it your recollection that the engineering department in that meeting was glad to see us limiting some of the parking such that it would be more available to the emergency vehicles and the government vehicles versus the everyday parker?
Yes, that's my understanding.
So is your understanding that from having that meeting with the engineering department, that this parking scenario would actually benefit the city overall and how that is used for our emergency vehicles as well as our administration for the city?
That is correct. And in furtherance of that and understanding how Green Street is utilized, we've developed 2 options for rideshare pickup drop-off areas along the Broad Street frontage.
Right. And that also took into consideration the additional parking that's available on Green Street and a consideration for the indention onto Broad Street itself, so that we would be in full compliance with what was being requested by the city's engineering department.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
You're welcome. 1 second. I want Mr. Barry because I think he may have something for us. Mr. Beck, if you can swear Mr. Barry.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Barrett. Do you solemnly swear the testimony about to give this board shall be truthful? Thank you. Please state your name and affiliation.
Sure. John Barry, consulting planner for the board. So just a couple follow-ups since Mr. Sauter was characterizing some of the things that were discussed at the TRC meeting. Mr. Vicio, have you had any conversations with anyone at the city about safety and security concerns related to the Green Street driveway since that TRC meeting?
No.
Mr. Sauter, have you?
I have.
Okay. So we
just
haven't heard.
if you'd like for me to expound on that, because we were specifically asked to reach out to the Director of Economic Development, Director Ladd, to address the fact that the mayor's vehicles specifically and city council vehicles were typically parked on the side as well as emergency vehicles. We made that request. We made that request immediately after to seek the input of the administration, to which we were told that they would rely on the engineering department's analysis to go on.
Okay. Because during the TRC meeting, for the benefit of the board, there were significant concerns raised about the location of the Green Street driveway, particularly its proximity to City Hall and some of the parking that city officials utilize. I'm sure many people are well aware. As a follow-up, Mr. Sutter, you were talking about additional parking on Green Street, and Mr. Vicio, I'm not sure if your testimony touched on this, but with the driveway on Green Street, what is the net change in existing parking proposed today? Just for the street spaces on Green Street.
Yep, the Green Street driveway is approximately 36 feet wide, so a loss of approximately 2 on-street parking spaces.
Okay, so 2 fewer spaces. Got it.
Correct.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we had that clear as well. And then one question on, you had said about managing closures of Green Street, that possibly the closure could happen, I think you were saying past the driveway to this building. So in that scenario, would the cars go wrong way on Green Street back to Broad? Is that what you were suggesting?
I was suggesting that if Green Street were to be closed for a special event, one option could be to have the hard closure begin to the east of the site driveway and have resident access only enter the site via the Green Street driveway and almost reverse the way the on-site circulation operates. That's one option. You know, if the city is not amenable to that, we do still have the Broad Street driveway, which would have to operate as the single point of ingress and egress. But again, you know, my understanding is that would be a relatively infrequent occurrence, and is something that could be managed with, you know, extensive advanced notification of the residents of when that would occur.
So you mentioned in these scenarios, did you analyze the options to use just one driveway at Broad Street or to reverse the circulation pattern with ingress from Green Street and egress on Broad Street? Did you analyze both of those as full-time options compared to what you're proposing?
I did not. No.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have for now.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. There were 3 hands raised. I see. Okay, and Mr. Trafficante is back in it. Mr. Commissioner Purdy, did you still have a question?
That's about Broad Street, man, and pick up and drop offs gonna look like the airport.
Okay, so that's similar to what Mr. Barry was suggesting to reverse it, right? Commissioner James, do you still have a question? I see you turned your camera off.
Yeah, no, Mr. Barry addressed it. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Baez, I see you.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I just have a simple question. According to the 6 valet park that they have, are they going to be there 24 hours, 7 days a week, or are they going to be changing at night?
The system would be staffed 24/7, but it might not necessarily need to be staffed with peak, you know, 6 valet employees for that entire duration. There's going to be downtimes, you know, let's say 11 a.m. On a typical weekday when residential traffic typically diminishes, might not need 6 valet members, but certainly during the peak times of residential traffic, your morning rush hour, your evening rush hour, the applicant is committed to having appropriate staffing levels.
So otherwise, you're telling me that you're going to have a 6 pretty much during the peak hours. So at night, after 12 o'clock, I say, you're just going to leave just some of them, not all of them, right?
Correct. Just some of them. The system, residents cannot park themselves in this system. So it would have to be staffed by valet employees 24/7.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baez. Mr. Trafficante.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Bishio, you stated that the number of required parking spaces is what, 238? Is that correct?
I stated, sorry, I'm just looking back at my notes. 238.
Right. And that's based on the number of dwelling units, you know, for the residential use, right?
Correct.
Right. Did you run the numbers based on number of bedrooms? And if you did, what number did you come up with?
Referring to sheet C4, the minimum off-street residential parking would be 0.5 spaces times 622 bedrooms. That calculation would be 311 spaces. My understanding is that the way to calculate the parking requirement is based on units. I would defer to the planner on that further.
But based on the number of bedrooms as well as the hotel use, you would need 322 on site, right? As opposed to 238 you're claiming? Big difference, isn't it?
Can I get a point
No.
can I get a point of clarification here, please?
Mr. Sauer.
Yeah, I just want to be clear, right? Because there's what's required by the city, right? And the question is being posed in terms of bedrooms versus units, right? So I just want to be clear for the full board that the requirement from the city is a requirement based on residential units, not bedrooms.
Mr. Barry.
Yes, Madam Chair. John Barry, still under oath, still planner for the board. Normally, under many circumstances, Mr. Souter is correct. The Living Downtown redevelopment plan is significantly older than our current zoning ordinance, hasn't had its parking standards modified yet. The plan states either half a space per bedroom with a minimum of half a space per unit. So in the event that you have a 3-bedroom unit, that's 1.5 parking spaces. A studio unit is a half a parking space, so minimum half. So in this circumstance, Mr. Traficante's line of questioning with the 320 odd spaces would be the number that we're looking at, and that's the number that's reflected in my report to the board as well.
Thank you. I just wanted to, for clarification purposes, we normally calculate another way. So I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page.
All right, Mr. Traficante, you can proceed with that line.
All right, well, I just want to shed some light that if you base it on number of bedrooms, the difference is a little bit more than the 16, I think they're claiming, or 18, that they're deficient. That's all. And
what's the number according to your calculation, Mr. Traficante?
Yes, and as well as the board planners, worst case scenario, they need 322. All right, as opposed to 238, and they only have 202, I think, or 222, given the credit for electrically charged vehicles. So that's a difference of 100. If I did the math right. Mr. Vicio, what numbers did you come up with?
Regarding what applies, again, I'm going to have to defer to the planner. But speaking as a traffic engineer, I think a parking demand of 0.5 spaces per unit is very suitable for this location based on the census data that I testified to, and also based on Institute of Transportation Engineers data. For a city center core, for a location that is close to rail transit, which I think is fair to characterize this as being close to rail transit, the Institute of Transportation Engineers Parking Generation Manual states that the average parking demand rate is 0.45 vehicles per unit. So I think that 0.5 per unit is certainly a very reasonable ratio given the context of this development. And as far as which applies for this particular site, again, I would have to defer to the planner.
Mr. Vicio, did anyone do any investigations as far as
if I might jump in?
Mr. Beck, I can't hear you.
Well, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, Dan Beck, Board Counsel. Counsel, have you had an opportunity to read the letter from the engineering department laying out what the concerns are?
Yes.
Have you agreed to comply with all of the above?
We started with that. Yes.
Okay. So I want to cut to the chase that Is this part of that letter or is this outside of the letter?
Believe this is out. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to characterize that because I don't know if there's a request here or not. So that's
All right, I'm just trying to move things along.
no, I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. I just don't know if there's a request, and I know Mr. Trafficante has his way about doing things, so I wanted to just afford him that chance. But we can comply with all of the requests in the engineer's report.
I mean, if it's a planning issue, it's separate and apart. The planning issue is in the purview of the planner.
All right. So, Mr. Trafficante,
Yes, ma'am.
is there a request included in this line of inquiry? Because I have a request or a
Yes,
suggestion.
I guess to cut to the chase, as Mr. Beck puts it.
We don't have to listen. We want to be efficient, right? That means we want to air everything that needs to be aired, and if it takes us to 11 o'clock, that's what we're going to do.
Where I'm going with this is, Mr. Vishio, has anyone did any investigations finding out if there be any available parking in these open parking lots that surround your site? All on Green Street? There'd be a possibility to rent spaces from those open space parking lots for the shortage?
We have attempted to informally contact several off-street parking lots and garages. We have not received specific data with respect to how many parking spaces are available. Just the fact that, monthly parking is available at numerous locations in the immediate site vicinity.
I would like to note for the record that this ownership group does own a parking lot a block away that has more than 100 spaces within it. So within our ownership cohort, we could accommodate those additional parking spaces.
Mr. Souter, given what you just shared with us, that there's someone within ownership that owns a surface parking lot, I'm going to keep that thought to myself. That's something that should have been managed before we sat here, right? I don't think it's fair to say we tried to have a conversation. If the person, that have ownership are sitting there amongst the developers.
Right, but I think the question was around some of the other ones. They are available. We can accommodate the request for an additional 100 parking spaces within a 2-block radius of this site.
Thank you.
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner James.
Council, have you had any discussions with the Newark Parking Authority regarding their parking lot or parking deck rather?
No, we have not.
Okay.
We have spoken. We've spoken to them in regard to the meter spaces. But as you may note throughout the day, that lot fills up probably the quickest of all the other lots in the area. So the lot that is kind of immediately adjacent to this is where we've sought to get approval from to have, if we needed to take a significant amount of spaces, but the management we've been able to get in touch with, the ownership has yet to respond to us. So that's where the response comes into play. So we are ideally, we would get those additional spaces there if needed, but we do have other spaces available to us. And we would, as a condition of approval, agree if needed to get those additional spaces, we can get them within the vicinity, the immediate vicinity.
I got you. Okay, no, I definitely didn't know that about the Newark Parking Authority's lot. I've probably physically been in there twice. What about Jose Lopez lots adjacent to that? Like, is that a part of their, like, you guys had any conversations with too?
Which
parking lot?
Which particular
the ones
lot?
right adjacent to this lot.
That are immediately next to it. As noted, we were able to talk to management, but we haven't got a response from ownership on being able to secure those spaces.
I got it. So you have attempted to speak to the adjacent surface parking lot that is owned by JNL.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you all. I mean, I think this is very important. I think to have the condition of approval would be helpful. Because I mean, we can speak about the proximity to public transportation, but how many of us have stood our tails on the corner of Boardman Market, right, in recent history? Yeah, we
Well, I'll
ran
take
through there
that.
on the Whole Foods. Don't play cowboy. Right? And then also we're presuming 15 minutes to Penn Station. Yeah, 15 minutes for us if we're able-bodied and in good health, right? But those 15, that distance can be a little arduous. The question that I wanted to ask is, are the owners considering providing a shuttle, right? Possibly
Yes,
that would go to the supermarket, a shuttle that would go to Penn Station and other points if folks are not in cars, right?
we are considering a shuttle that would get us transportation not only to Penn Station, but Newark Airport as well, and all of the other immediate amenities that we do not expect the residents to be drivers. So having that amenity where we'd be able to get them to a supermarket. We do have one within walking distance, but we know when you have groceries, you may not want to carry those all the way back. So we do expect to have that available to our residents, as well as for our hotel guests.
Thank you very much. Who's your next professional?
Thank you. Our next professional would be Murat Mutlu, the architect for this project.
Good evening, sir. Do you solemnly swear the testimony about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name and affiliation to this application.
My name is Murat Mutlu. I'm with Inno Architecture. We're the project architects for this development.
Counsel.
Thank you. Mr. Mutlu, your license is active and in good standing here in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, it's current.
I think Mr. Mutlu has been.
All right, you're accepted by the board, Mr. Mutlu.
Thank you, Bashir. Good evening. I'd like to share my screen.
Mr. Mulu, before you begin, if I may, Madam Chair, Mr. Souter, can we just mark this? Because I
Yes.
knew it was.
Yes, we'll mark it A1
A1.
for the whole presentation, and we'll submit it as a packet.
Okay. Mr. Mulu, how many pages is this, if you know?
It's 32 pages.
32. Thank you so much.
Some of it already is submitted to the board. We'll just assemble the documents into a presentation and included colored renderings. Just to give you, I guess, an introduction, our office has designed multiple other projects, high rises in the city, including the Halo Towers, which is under construction, the Summit Tower, which had its demolition completed. It had zoning board approvals and historic board approval, not planning board, and then 50 Sussex project that actually was completed earlier. So the site, as mentioned by the previous professionals, is it's between the City Hall and the Prudential Center. It's an aerial view that shows sort of this undeveloped parking lot infrastructure that the city has, which is with our project and other projects that's in the pipeline would be sort of the new face of the city with more housing, and will create more liveliness and sort of make the living downtown zoning a reality, which is lacking at this part of the city. The tax map shows the location, the streets, Green Street, Broad Street, and Lafayette. We're at that corner. Our site plan shows that the podium is sort of 100% lot coverage, with the exception of a minor setback at the corner, as mentioned by the civil engineering consultant. The project has 53 stories. The first 8 stories has hotel use with sort of service apartments. And then above that level, we have residential apartment units. So this section diagram, colored, shows sort of distribution of the program. There's a cellar with parking, which has also utilities at below grade. The ground floor has the lobby, the parking, sort of valet stacking areas, the loading, the trash compactor area. And then above the lobby, we have two sort of double-story layers, which has two high stackers, additional amenity spaces. And then we have sort of hotel apartment suites at the base of the tower. This table is submitted to the board. It shows sort of the metrics of the project, which I'll briefly mention. So we're at 53 stories, 610 feet height. We have a total of 490 units. 44 of them are hotel suites, and then a total of about 511,000 square feet gross floor area, and of which 19,000 is for amenities, which is a good number for a building. And as mentioned by the previous consultants, we have dedicated, we have 202 parking capacity. So I'll run you through the building interior and the programmatic distribution at a 2D level. Cellar level has, again, stackers, drive aisle parking, overhead, utility rooms, and micro-mobility parking spaces. At the ground level, as mentioned, we have incoming stacking area and an outbound stacking area, residential and the hotel lobby, which is shared. And we have 4 high-speed elevators that take our residents and the hotel guests up the tower. We've had a meeting, we had a TRC meeting with the professionals of the city. The proposed circulation for traffic is as shown in this blue arrow. This is the pedestrian access. But there's also the alternative, as actually previously mentioned, that we could alternatively reverse the circulation. That was discussed, but we didn't get a preference from the city engineers, but we can certainly reverse the circulation if that becomes a condition of the approval of this project. And then we have a mezzanine level with additional amenities, package areas, and on the podium level, we have more parking spaces, and then sort of a sliver of space for additional amenity spaces for both the hotel use and the residential use. So we have apartments on the upper floors with alternating balconies, outdoor spaces for the residences. And then, so this whole composition that we mentioned, the programmatic distribution has created this tower with 600 plus feet height. This rendering shows skyline with our other projects, Summit Tower, the NOAA towers, which we'll present after this hearing, the Halo towers, and then to the right is actually the Mulberry 350 Mulberry towers, which we'll present tomorrow as well. Unlike our other projects, this project has a little bit of a different projections with the envelope. The balconies are more proud and cantilevered out, breaking the glass facade. A night view of these the balconies with sort of 2-story high projections, all within the private space. A view from Broad Street looking south, and in front of City Hall looking north. Elevations that was submitted to the board, which shows these sort of articulated balconies and projections. The tower geometry is split, so instead of having a blank flat facade, we have a reveal on sort of in the middle of each facade to articulate and break sort of a plain geometry. And some inspirational photos of amenities in the building, gym spaces, lounge spaces, and sort of additional play areas for our residents. And then the building will comply with the zoning ordinance green infrastructure requirements with sort of encouraging low emissions of electrical vehicle charging stations, materials using sort of locally supplied materials, low VOC, LED lighting, and sort of Energy Star appliances. And the project itself being replacing an existing built structure becomes a sustainable site as well, because we're not replacing any sort of green area that might have existed. We will comply with the zoning ordinances requirement regarding bird-friendly glass the first 100 feet. And being a high-rise building, we provide additional life safety measures, including emergency generator, fire alarm panel, fire pump, stair pressurization. And given the height of the building, the fire department apparatus access ladders are not sufficient to reach the entire height. So the building elevators are designed specifically for fire service, which are smoke-proof enclosures, so the fire staff could go up to sort of a given floor and safely operate. I would like to end the testimony with this final sort of skyline view with the proposed tower in the center. Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you, Murat.
All right, can we have this screen? Commissioners, do any of you have questions for the architect, Mr. Mutlu? All right, seeing none. Your next professional, please.
Thank you. I'll move on to John McDonough, our planner.
Good evening, Mr. McDonough. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes, I do, Mr. Becht.
Once again, thank you. Please state your name and affiliation for the record.
Sure. Hi there, everyone. My name is John McDonough. My address is 101 Gibraltar Drive in Parsippany, New Jersey. And my affiliation is as the project planner. That license, both on the state and national level, is current and in good standing.
You may proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Calvin, you want to lead me off or take it away?
Go for it.
Okay, so we're going to let the site do a little bit of the talking for itself. We've got an application here that is in the heart of the downtown. We've got a site that is right next to City Hall. Oh, Mr. Becht, Madam Chair, I think we need to mark this as A1 for the record?
A2.
A2. A2, it's just going to be two photographs, one from the air, one from the ground. The first is just to give you a little context here. We're talking about two tax lots right next to City Hall. This is another in the line of transformative projects by this redeveloper. We've seen others as well, and this is really what the downtown, the Living Downtown Redevelopment Plan wants, is high rises here to bring people here, to bring around the clock population to the downtown. So we applaud our applicant here for being pioneering in doing exactly what this redevelopment plan is looking for the city to do. Again, two tax lots, block 865, lots 1 and 2. It's about a quarter acre on the corner of Green and Broad, easily identifiable right next to City Hall. This is going to create an accent building, a beacon, if you will, another one of the beacons by this architect and by this developer that will help define this skyline and help show the transforming nature of the city skyline and elevating it as a world-class city with these beautiful high-rise buildings. We're in the downtown. We are within reasonable walking distance of Penn Station. We're right by this major entertainment venue of Prudential Center, and of course, the heart of the city being the downtown and Broad Street being the main corridor. The redevelopment of this project is to develop all existing, construct this new beautiful building that you just saw, rising up 53 stories on a site that's already been approved for a high-rise development, 446 apartments with 44 hotel units. And again, the valet parking system, which has been, I think, really well thought out here by our designers and by our applicant as well in terms of providing for free flow of traffic through and around the site. In terms of the redevelopment plan here, again, the essence of the Living Downtown Redevelopment Plan is to bring around-the-clock population to the downtown. The project is going to substantially comply with all of the requirements of the redevelopment plan. Most importantly, on the highest tiers here, the use complies, the height complies. Again, this is exactly what the Living Downtown Plan wants, these higher, taller buildings. The overall density, the overall setbacks, but for that one little setback that Mr. Seckler talked about, all in substantial compliance with the redevelopment plan. There is some relatively minor relief that the applicant is asking the board to move on. They're laid out in Mr. Barry's report. They're fourfold on the variance side and one-fold on the waiver side. First and foremost, you've got the excessive front yard setback where we're looking at 0 feet. Mr. Seckler showed you that we're just rounding off that corner there, which is going to facilitate circulation at the corner. And it's only 1.5 feet that the applicant is asking the board to move. So this is one of those cases where the relief is unperceivable in the public eye. You did hear Andrew's testimony regarding parking. There were good questions in that regard as well. With a parking supply that will be approximately 0.6 per unit. I do agree that the redevelopment plan actually does hold an older standard, which is no longer used here in the city, based on bedroom count. Bear in mind, the redevelopment plan also has a formula for mixed-use developments. It's not spot on with this development, but I think the board can give some credence to that as well, where you can reduce the residential portion by 0.6. Again, that takes us back to what Andrew was saying before, that 0.6 is reasonable and appropriate, plus 1.0 for the non-residential component. If you took that formula here, 622 bedrooms times 0.5 gets you 311. With that 0.6 standard, gets you down to 198. Again, with the non-residential component, would get us up in that 200 and I believe 209 requirement, where 202 is provided here. So based on that ratio, again, that's based on an office residential development here. We've got a residential and hotel development, so it's not spot on, but I think the board can look to that for guidance as well. Overall, the actual relief is for 322 parking spaces being proposed. And as Mr. Barry had said, a requirement of I believe it was, just lost my number here. I'll come back to that number. But again, I agree with the number that Mr. Barry had in his report. But I think you do have, from a reasonable and appropriate standpoint, these ratios and the requirement that Andrew gave you as well, in terms of the actual demand here being in that 0.6 or actually 0.5, and this application is above and beyond that. Relief for loading, where we've seen and demonstrated here that 1 is proposed and is appropriate, where 2 would be required. And a shortage of just 1 shade tree on Green Street. We've got 2 on Broad, we've got 2 on Green. We'll make up for that 1 that we can't comply with by contributing to the tree fund. And then lastly, the excessive driveway width for safe circulation into and out of the site. We've got driveways at 30 and 36 feet being proposed for the 2 driveways, where 20 would be the maximum that's permitted. Again, relatively minimal impact on the on-street parking, as you heard through Andrew's testimony. Tying all of this together in terms of the balancing under the land use law, we see the benefits of the application as a whole and this beautiful transformative development, advancing multiple purposes of the land use law, including Purpose A, the promotion of the general welfare, because this project is delivering a permitted use that is substantially compliant with the requirements of the zone, and also creating that beacon right next to City Hall. Purpose I, the promotion of a desirable visual environment with an attractive building, an attractive focal point to complement and continue the progressive, transformative nature of the skyline. Purpose G, to provide for a variety of uses in appropriate locations, a diversified mix of unit types and services within a civic center. It is good planning to concentrate our population in civic centers where amenities and other civic amenities exist, both transit and entertainment. Lastly, Purpose M, the project promotes the planning goal for efficient use of land, because this entails redevelopment of an underutilized site, which will spark revitalization. Based on all the testimony, I believe that relief can be granted without any substantially adverse impacts. You have a good, solid record below me with the evidence and the exhibits that have been presented. A beautiful project that will take the downtown and add value and quality. This last frame here on A2 just shows the underutilization of the site as it presently exists, and certainly contrary to the theme for buildings to rise up here in the downtown. With that, I would stop share. I would offer that the statutory criteria for all relief are met and approval is warranted.
Thank you, Mr. McDonough. I know that we skipped over some crucial steps here, so I'm going to ask Commissioner James to present his questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a really quick question regarding the amenities. Are they going to be utilized by both the residents as well as the hotel guests, or is there like separate amenities for each population?
The hotel guests will have access to the amenities.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a question with regards to the IZO. How many of the units are going to be affordable? Is everything market rate?
I can speak to that, Madam Chair. This is a fully compliant inclusionary housing project. To those numbers. Here's my chart. Don't have the breakdown of that, which I thought I had in front of me, but I can tell you that we expect to be fully IZO compliant with 20% inclusionary housing on site, with the appropriate mix between 40, 60, and 80%, and complying with the unit breakdown as well between studio ones, twos, and the limit. I believe we have a few 3 bedrooms on here as well.
Thank you. Commissioners, before we go on, do any of you have any questions before we open up to the public?
Yeah, one last question. Council, is this the same owner that came before the board in 2019? And
No,
you
it's
guys
not.
were requesting additional? Okay. So I'm assuming you're applying for some type of tax credit to supply program. So what happens if you guys don't receive any of the, financial incentives and so forth to get this project done? Like, what happened next?
So I can note that presently we are not necessarily looking at Aspire for this project, which would significantly change the capital stack for this. What we've learned is that in some of these projects, it is more expensive to use some of that financing than it is to work directly with the city. And we have begun the process of working with the city in a way that we would not need to use Aspire. Aspire would require us to do certain things in terms of it would just add a significant cost, but from a unit breakdown, which is typically the bigger issue, we do have the requisite 3 bedrooms that we would need in order to comply with Aspire. But as of right now, we have begun negotiations with the city, so I don't want to go too far into those. But those negotiations have included us being fully IZO compliant, but us finding alternatives to Aspire in order to get this done, and we think we're well on our way there.
Thank you for that question. All right. At this time, seeing no other board members who have questions, I'd like to invite members of the public. If you have questions with regards to this application, please press raise hand. If you're calling in, press *9. We'll bring you in. You'll have 3 minutes to present your question, comments, concerns.
We have a member joining now, Madam Chair.
All right. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Would that be me?
That would
Good
be you.
evening,
Mr. Beck is
sir.
going to swear you in.
Oh, okay.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, sir. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be truthful?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Nee Ablade, Ajogo 02, 62 Haddon Terrace, Newark, New Jersey.
All right, you'll have 3 minutes. Present your comments, concerns, please.
Well, I actually, I just had a question in terms of the parking for the parking expert. I wanted to know if in the number of parking spaces, were the employees included in that number? Or are all of the employees expected to take public transportation or bike? That was my question. I raised it before, but I think it's going to be an issue with this building. Not only I know that the parking expert, focused on Prudential Center, but things happen at City Hall as well. And if in the event that something is happening at City Hall, which happens at various times of the day, and at the Prudential Center, which happens at various times of the day, is going to be a real issue. I think that it's a very ambitious project. It's massive, and I think that the belittling of the parking really raises a quality of life issue, not only for the people who live there and for the hotel patrons, but for people who have to drive by to do business at City Hall and different things like that. So that was my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We have another member.
Is anyone going to respond? No.
I think I can address that in my closing to just make it a little bit easier and more efficient.
Good evening, Ms. Relafotofolo. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm sorry, my camera is not working. So can I?
Yeah, you can just, he'll swear you. We're going to presume your hand
Yes.
is raised.
Good evening.
Okay, it is.
Good evening. Do you solemnly swear the testimony about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Denise Relafotofolo, Pavilion Apartments in the great city of Newark. Wow, this is a massive project. I am kind of concerned with it, as my colleague was saying about the parking. Not only that, but I was also concerned about how the fact about the elevators. Now, I live at the Pavilion, and we have 3 elevators, and it's 340 apartments, and you're only given four elevators. So my question is, are these elevators going to be going to certain floors or et cetera? I just think that for this type of building and the type of, what's going on inside the building, I just think it's a lot. And then I'm kind of concerned when I saw the firemen going up the stairs and et cetera. I don't want this to be taken lightly. We are building all these massive buildings downtown Newark. But the question is, are we equipped to handle in case of an emergency? I just think that putting a hotel with residents, and then where the hotel guests going to park, they're going to take some of that parking also. So where the residents, and then we talk about 6 people valet parking for Lyft. Look, I've been there, done that. Lyft, when you're having that type of service, it takes time. It really does. I just think that, even if you guys approve this, this is not a project that should be in that particular area. of downtown Newark. I think it's a great project, but I'm just not happy where it's being located and being built at. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Madam Chair, I'm not seeing any other members of the public wishing to speak. Okay, there's one. My apologies.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Good evening, excuse me. Do you
Good
solemnly
evening.
swear testimony about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Hazel Applewhite. I work for Ironbound Community Corporation, CEO for Ironbound Community Corporation. And my work address at Ironbound is 317 Elm Street, Newark, New Jersey, 07105. Is it okay for me to
Yes,
move forward?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So I am unclear if this is something that the board is going to handle. I understand that the inclusionary zoning numbers have not been brought in, right? That's important. We do need to understand, what the allocations of those apartments are, and also how many 3 bedrooms are in there. Newark is a place, right, where families live. So it's important that there was an emphasis on, that there is an amount of 3 bedrooms in there and an amount of 2 bedrooms. It is a massive project. That's one thing that I want to just put in there for the lawyer. I do understand that you are going to get back with the inclusionary zoning numbers, but let's make sure that if you guys are going to move forward with this project, and I do agree with my other colleagues who spoke before me, it is a massive project. Let's just make sure that we're not we're also including our families. So, in folks who can afford this building within our neighborhoods, right, that, it's not studios or 1 bedrooms, but it's families. And additionally, I also want to say that a project like this may bring jobs, right? Let's make sure that we are employing local Newark residents to work in this space. So I haven't heard much about that, right? And maybe I missed it, right? But let's make sure there's a lot of different job centers and really qualified, CBOs in Newark who have residents, job training. We have, FOCs in Newark, which are financial opportunity center that do job training, job placement. Let's make sure that we're utilizing those spaces to ensure that Newark residents actually get those jobs, because we do have qualified folks in Newark who can be managers, who can be, directors, all of those different areas, that job placement is going to happen in. So those are my 2 or 3 comments on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Applewhite.
I can respond to affordable unit count, Madam Vice Chair.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Matillo. If you can share that now.
So we have 446 apartments, and 90 of them would be affordable. And of the 90 affordable units, we'll have 18 3-bedroom affordable apartments, 54 2-bedroom that are affordable, and then 18 1-bed or studio. These numbers actually work with the Aspire requirements. It's more stringent than the city's ordinance in terms of unit count.
Thank you. Commissioner Baez.
Yes, Madam Chair. Going back to your question, you actually asked that question before. How many affordable units going to be? So in total, how many are there?
90.
That's fair. Thank you.
We have another member of the public, Madam Chair. Mr. Garces. Okay, he's declining, so we don't have any other members of the public.
All right. Given that we do not have additional questions, I need the commissioners that are present to turn their cameras on. All right. Right. And I would like to request a motion that is including a condition of approval, which is the 100 additional parking spaces.
I make a motion, Vice Chair, with the condition.
Second with conditions.
Presented by Member Baez, seconded by Commissioner Purdy. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Commissioner Jordan? Come back to Commissioner Purdy?
Yes.
Commissioner Baez?
Yes.
Commissioner Timmons?
Yes.
Commissioner De Silva?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yeah.
Commissioner Austin?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan? I'll put his absent. Madam Chair?
Did we get Commissioner Timmons?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, again, with those conditions of approval included. Thank you. That application is now approved.
Thank you all very much. I greatly appreciate your consideration. I look forward to part
Good luck, Mr. Shoulder.
Thank you.
All right. The next application, again, is going to be CPB 2504. The address is 16 to 34 William Street. Mr. Souter, is it the same team?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Mr. Sutter, are we adding Mr. Spiegel?
Yes, you can, please.
Mr. Sutter, are we ready?
I am.
Oh, okay. The floor is yours.
Thank you. We are, first of all, thank you all for being here this evening for part 2 of this magical moment. We started off the first hearing talking about, where we've come in this renaissance of a city and celebrating in memoriam the loss of one of our greatest leaders. What I would like to add to that is that there was a long time coming to get to a point where we believed in our city to the point where we would build and build tall. But unlike the other project, we're a little bit shorter in this particular project in terms of the height. But this is a 2-tower configuration that we're looking at here. So we're looking to construct 2 42-story mixed-use towers with 712 residential units, 300 parking spaces, as well as commercial space, and some 22,000 square feet of ground floor space. You all may recall this project. It was, I believe, the first tower that was presented in our city some years ago. It became known as the Vibe over the years. But for those of us who have been here for any real period of time, this is Jay's. This is the second coming of Jay's. And if I were to think about the family that did what they could do to create such a monumental corner in our city, we're going to do it some justice today with the new project that will be on this corner, hopefully with this board's purview. The team is the same. And in trying to be efficient, I will do my best to jump into this and get it going again. So with that, Madam Chair, I would like to call Mr. Seckler, the project's engineer, to give testimony on the engineering related to this site.
All right, thank you. Mr. Seckler, you've already been accepted by the board.
Thank you. And I assume I'm still sworn in from before?
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
There you go.
Calvin, you want me to get started?
Yep, this is your show.
Perfect. Unfortunately, my screen is a little frozen, so I'll start giving my testimony while I wait for my screen to unfreeze itself. But again, this is 1634 William Street. As mentioned by council, this is a mixed-use development that includes, oh, my screen is now unfrozen, so I will share my screen now. That's located along 3 streets. It's along Halsey, William, and Chapel Court, and I will share my screen now. This is the first page of our site plan submission. So this was previously submitted and I don't believe needs to be marked, but we've outlined the site in black. Again, Halsey Street to the west, William Street to the north, Chapel Court, which is a very narrow roadway to our east. You could see here off to the east side of this image, you could see Broad Street and the location of the other project that we just previously discussed off here in the bottom right-hand corner of the plan. As was mentioned, we're going 42 or proposing 42 stories here with a retail ground floor in addition to parking, and then the upper levels of all residential. You'll see those beautiful pictures from the architect shortly, but again, I'm here to show you the civil engineering plans. The site itself is about a ½ acre in size. We are proposing ingress along Halsey Street. Again, interior to the site, you have that valet queuing area. You have the elevators to go to the upper levels for the parking, which the valet will bring. And then on the way out, we have access towards Chapel Court, which you would make a left turn.
Matt, so you're clear. Your speaking and your screen are not keeping up, so it's a little confusing.
Gotcha. Okay.
We are seeing now the entire first floor plate.
Perfect. Okay. So the first floor plate on the left-hand side is Halsey Street. That is where the ingress to the parking area would be. That would have the queuing area and the elevator stackers in the middle center of the building. And then leaving the site, you would have Chapel Court. That is the way to leave the site, in which you will make a left turn and head back towards William Street. We are proposing to have another curb cut along William Street, which would be to a interior loading area. This loading area is for commercial vehicles. This is not your, person who rents a U-Haul type operation, but any of the commercial space deliveries, and this commercial space you could see here on the top right portion of this site plan, and you'll see more from the architect shortly. They would receive loading from this area along with, this is where garbage pickup would be. As you can see, the 2 refuse rooms spill out into this loading area. So we do have that third curb cut along William Street, which we are seeking a deviation for. More standard loading. So again, if you're driving a U-Haul or getting other type of deliveries, you would utilize the loading area that's internal to the building, closest to the Chapel Court exit driveway. So you'd enter the building from Halsey. Instead of going into the elevator and stacker area, you would pull all the way through to the hatched area near the exit driveway, which is where you would do your loading or unloading in that location if you're not a professional driver or delivering to the commercial area. As detailed on this plan, we are, similar to the other one, having a very minor deviation as it relates to setbacks as required, again, in the living downtown zone, which obviously this is a living downtown project. You are required to have 0 setback along all frontages. However, along Chapel Court, which has basically the right-of-way line goes right up to the curb, we are slightly setting it back. And similar to the other project, this is not a property line that fits, that is a perfect rectangle. There's a slight bend or bow to the Chapel Court right-of-way. So again, similar to the other project, we are basically at 0 feet in one corner, but as we get closer to William Street, there is a slight setback, and that is illustrated here, a 2.5-foot setback along, again, this narrow right-of-way of Chapel Court. Similarly, because there's basically very, very little area for right-of-way along Chapel Court, we're not proposing any street trees along Chapel Court, but we are proposing plantings. The reason for this is the way the building overhangs in this area. There's really no opportunity for sunlight or having any ability for trees to kind of live along Chapel Court. But we do believe there are abilities to have some other type of more, I'd say, light, some plantings that are can survive with a little less light in this area. So we are proposing plantings there, but we are shy the street trees along Chapel Court. We are compliant with the street trees along William Street, and along Halsey Street. We are currently showing 2 trees where 3 is required. We believe in working this relocated light pole, we might be able to fit a 3rd tree. If we cannot, we can obviously provide the proper funding to the tree fund. But again, it is our hope and goal to be able to provide compliant trees along Halsey Street. It really, again, requires working through this light pole relocation. Other than that, we did receive comments from the Water and Sewer Department. We have no issue working with those professionals in satisfying all of their concerns regarding any type of water main upgrades or connections, and same thing with the sewer connections as well. So again, similar to the other project, the site covers nearly the entire property. The only real variance we're seeking is that we have actually a slight greater than 0-foot setback along Chapel Court, and our street trees, because of the narrowness of Chapel Court and the way the building overhangs, will not allow for, we believe, trees to survive in this area. We provided some other type of planting. That and the loading area, that extra curb cut that we're proposing, you'll hear later from the planner regarding the variance justification for that. But again, I think you'd love to hear more from the architect and traffic engineer on this application, but that's the basic site plan design that we have for you on this project.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, I see Mr. Trafficante. Mr. Trafficante, consider yourself sworn from earlier.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, Mr. Seckler, quick
Yes.
question offhand. You show an interior loading zone. I guess, is that for the residential units only?
Yes, that's for the residential units. The commercial would utilize the one on William Street.
All right. Is there going to be any restrictions as to what size truck can use that interior loading zone?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be for tractor trailers, but it would be able
Right.
to support most box trucks, U-Haul type deliveries. The clearance in there is sufficient.
So as a condition of approval, would your client be willing to put signs on the entrance off of Halsey Street telling the maximum size trucks that can use the interior loading zone, since it dumps out into a 12-foot wide alleyway called, what is it, Court?
Chapel Court, yes, I agree. We
Yeah.
will provide signage to ensure that only vehicles that can make the turns enter the building.
And illuminated at night, so it can be seen from a distance.
Certainly.
All right. No further questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Trafficante. Commissioners, any of you have any questions for Mr. Seckler?
Yes.
Commissioner Purdy?
Yes, that project was it always 42 stories or 12 stories?
42 stories.
Always?
Excuse me?
Always 42 stories?
I don't understand.
You voted on it before, I think, about a year or two ago. Right?
But the vibe you voted on, that was a different owner. I believe that building was
Okay.
20 some odd stories, 23 or 25 stories.
12. All right, okay. I knew it changed with some changes. Okay. All right.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions? All right, seeing none. Who's your next professional?
I'd like to call Andrew Vicio, our traffic engineer.
Good evening. Do you solemnly swear the testimony about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and affiliation.
Andrew Vicio, V as in Victor, ISCHIO, traffic engineer for the applicant, employed by Stonefield Engineering and Design, 92 Park Avenue, Rutherford, New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. Vecchio. You're accepted by the board. Can you proceed with your testimony?
Please.
Certainly. On behalf of the application, our office prepared a traffic impact study dated July 22nd, 2024. I'm going to share my screen and focus on sheet C4 of the submitted site plan set. Access to the site is proposed via left turn ingress along Halsey Street and left turn egress along Chapel Court. The proposed development would provide 300 parking spaces, and the parking system would be handled exclusively by valet operators in the same fashion as I testified to for the prior application. So I won't go into the details again about how that system works, but I will point out that there are more queue stacking spaces for this application than the prior application because we are proposing more parking spaces. Specifically, 12 ingress stacking spaces are available. The ratio of stacking spaces to parking supply is effectively equal to the prior application. One stacking space is provided for every 25 parking spaces that are provided as far as overall capacity. Once a resident retrieves their vehicle, they would make a left turn to head northbound along Chapel Court, and then would proceed to make a left turn onto William Street. Regarding parking supply, again, referencing the same Institute of Transportation Engineers data that I previously cited, the average parking demand ratio for this type of development is 0.45 stalls per unit. So for 712 residential units, that would equate to 320 vehicles of anticipated demand, whereas we are providing 300 parking spaces on site. However, again, similar to the last application, we are in a transit-rich environment. Again, a 15-minute walk to Penn Station, 17 NJ Transit bus routes can be accessed along Broad Street. So we anticipate that we will attract residents that choose to not own a vehicle, and the 300 parking spaces that we are providing on site would be sufficient for the residents of the building. To reiterate what Mr. Seckler said regarding loading, the loading zone along Williams Street would be for commercial use only, not for moving in or out of the building. That would be accessed via the Halsey Street driveway, and then they would proceed to the interior loading zone. We do recognize, and this was a comment that came up at the technical review meeting, that there are multiple lanes of egress onto Chapel Court and the potential for multiple vehicles to want to depart the site at the same time. So we would propose signage that indicates that drivers should yield to their right, following the same convention as an all-way stop control intersection. That concludes my direct testimony, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Yes.
Commissioner Purdy.
That traffic study is a little worse than the one around the corner. There's one lane going down Halsey Street. There's one lane coming up William Street. The parking spaces may be fine in the building, but the drop off is going to tie that traffic worse than it is now. It's really bad now. That's it.
Yeah, that's the intent of the interior valet queuing area is for all of the demand of vehicles that want to, arrive back home. They would pull into the site and park in one of these 12 queuing areas without the need to wait along Halsey Street or back into Halsey Street.
What about the lift? What about the lifts? People that kick the Uber and the lifts.
So the Uber and Lyft drivers, I think the striped no parking area in front of the loading area would be a perfect location for Uber and Lyft pickup and drop off. It's pretty close to the lobby, and that's that would be a very efficient use of the curb line.
Sound good. All right.
Thank you, Commissioner Purdy. I see the order is Trafficante, Barry, and then James. Mr. Trafficante.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Vishio. Based on residential units, you're proposing 712 residential units. Based on residential units, that requires 356 parking spaces. So far, so good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based on bedrooms, what's the number you come up with? Same question as last application. Yeah, we're looking at more.
478 based on bedrooms.
Well, let's cut to the chase. Is that there's a difference between what you got on site and based on the number of bedrooms? Can you find those anywhere within a 2-block radius of the site? In other words, is your client prepared to provide parking somewhere else off site like he did on the last application and a shuttle bus to go with it? Let's cut to the chase.
I can't make those commitments myself. I would have to defer to counsel. But based on my testimony, I anticipate the demand would be on the order of 320 vehicles based on industry standard data. So less than either of those calculations.
All right, well, the question still arises. It's the same living downtown development, right? So same question from the last application carries over. So I know Mr. Souter can answer that.
My apologies. I didn't realize I was muted. My response is the same. If necessary, we will find additional parking in other lots that within the 2-block radius for these residents.
And the shuttle?
Yes, shuttle as well.
Last question, Mr. Vishio. Did your traffic impact analysis take into account traffic generated, especially in the morning, by the charter school across the street on the corner of Treat Place and Williams? And all those people from your building are trying to get to work, and all those parents are in school buses are dropping kids off across the street. And you may have one lane, I believe, with parking on both sides of Williams Street. All those cars trying to get out, which is all one way, going to the west, I believe. Did your traffic impact study take into account the effects of the adjoining charter school? And any other buildings, the other building on the corner of William Street and Washington?
It absolutely took all of the activity that takes place, vehicular and pedestrian generated by the charter school, as well as all of the ambient traffic that travels along these roadways. Those were captured in our traffic volume counts. We're very familiar with how the charter school pick up and drop off operations occur. They happen in a concentrated fashion to the south of the site, and none of the parents pick up or drop off double parking or behavior would impede drivers' ability to enter the site via Halsey Street or exit the site via Chapel Court.
All right. No further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Barry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. John Barry, planner for the board. Mr. Vicio, I had made a comment in my report raising some concerns about the loading driveway on William Street. And from a functional standpoint, you've got a similar width or length, depending on how you look at it, striped out on William Street as you have available to the interior loading space. From your perspective, is there a real functional benefit to having that loading interior to the building rather than just utilizing the curbside space?
The space interior to the building is needed for maneuvering the refuse and delivery of goods. I to your point, I think that the actual loading could occur along the curb, roughly in the location of that striped area, without the truck pulling into the site. So yes, a commercial vehicle could park along the curb, and the delivery activity could happen between the curb line and enter the building there. That's an option that we would be amenable to, but this loading area interior to the building would remain.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not so much concerned about the use of that space interior as I am about the vehicle moving in and out of, especially what can be very congested William Street. And then with the depressed curb for the driveway access, you mentioned the idea of Uber drivers, Lyfts, other kinds of those types of deliveries. They may park in front of a depressed curb from time to time, but it's certainly less useful to some drivers who might not want to block a driveway. So, I think it's something, I don't know if we necessarily want to fully decide it this evening, but I think subject to review by the Department of Engineering with greater detail, Division of Traffic and Signals, about that turning movement, just to make sure that we settle on the best approach to handling loading here. I would like to keep that open-ended if the board so desires.
Received. So that would be a condition of approval, is that they would meet with you all to specify.
Yes, I think that we would coordinate with the city's other professionals to review that driveway and whether it makes more sense to have the loading zone take place on the street and eliminate that curb cut and entrance to the vehicle entrance to the property at that point, or if we leave it as is. I think we keep it open to professional review if that's okay with the board.
Okay. Commissioner James. Thank you, Mr. Barry.
Yeah, my question is for Mr. Barry. So, John, can we just stay on real quick? I do recall remembering when we approved Teachers Village across the street, but I don't recall if Teachers Village has parking on site, or is there parking within that facility? If you recall on that.
Commissioner James, the Teachers Village approvals actually predate me. I've been with the board for a while now, but those go back a little bit before my time. I know that the approval that was granted for this site that Mr. Satter alluded to earlier, there was a 19-story building that did have, far smaller number of units, but it did have on-site parking proposed for that project, but just a very different scale from what we have here.
Yeah, no, the only reason why I was asking, and I'm glad you brought up the project, I think it was called the Vibe. I think most of our board members were excited about that project. And, this lot has been vacant for quite some time. And I believe the rendering is still, posted out on the exterior of the Vibe. So every time I can pass through it, I get excited. But now, I guess I realize that project is not coming to fruition. Hopefully this does. But I guess my question to you, council, and any of your professionals, is there any surface parking where, I literally rode down that street by mistake maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I was stuck in traffic for probably about half an hour because I didn't know. I definitely don't remember approving, pick up and drop off of buses on William Street, knowing that that's essentially a one-way, egress. And I know the city has had some issues in terms of enforcing pick up and drop offs at all of our schools throughout the city. Considering I do have kids that attend both public and charter, so I do know that's an issue that the city addresses on a daily basis. But regarding that specific location, is there any off-site parking, in that area regarding surface parking lots and so forth? Because I don't even know where people that live in Teachers Village, like park. And as John mentioned, that project was so long ago, that I can't recall. But once again, that's just a very high dense area, and I definitely think that something needs to be developed there. And like I said, I was excited when the initial project was being proposed, the Vibe, which wasn't too long ago. But, that's just a huge, I would say, one-way area, coming off Broad Street. And you literally don't know until you turn on William Street that you're going to be stuck because you have, several yellow buses picking up and dropping off kids in addition to other, parents doing the same. So,
Yeah. So I'd just like to note that Teachers Village was approved with 0 parking. But there are several surface parking lots in the area. So on Washington Street, there are multiple surface parking lots, as well as if you were to just cross the corner of Broad Street, which is the next corner up, you also have the city's largest surface parking lot, and you get to a series of surface parking lots, as well as the decks where you would be able to park commercially if you would like. There's monthly parking, daily parking all around this particular project. Sadly, like in many areas of the city, it's more issue of illegal stopping and parking that we're addressing here. That in all reality, with a new development coming in, is an opportunity to clear that up, right? Because what now is, we see it as space that if you turn down there, you kind of get stuck. You kind of get stuck because there's nobody else really over there, right? So people take advantage of that and just kind of double park, triple park. The school buses come onto William Street versus staying on Halsey Street, because if they stopped on Halsey Street, they would completely back up traffic. And all that would happen here is that we would work with the Department of Engineering and Traffic and Signals, to ensure that the flow of traffic continued, where right now there's really no concerted effort, right? If you think back to when Jay's was there, right, we didn't really have this issue when Jay's was there because the folks that ran Jay's made sure that their folks had parking. So even as things started to change in that neighborhood, they just being there, right, and having something there allowed for them to make sure that the illegal parking didn't occur. That being said, we'll continue to work with the city's engineering department, traffic and signals, to make sure that we have an adequate solution here. But as you note, and traffic engineer or a regular engineer can go into this a little bit further, great pain was taken to turn the building and the podium in a certain way to come out on Chapel Street. That section of Halsey Street, for all of us who know that area well, if you were to turn left on Halsey there, you probably get a little bit of relief, enough to get you to that little, what we would really call an alleyway. I don't think we in common parlance think of it as a regular street, right? So there's 2 frontages here that right now are hardly utilized by vehicles that we would be making better use of and improving to make sure that our residents would have great access to that. It would also add a little bit of a different flow, because now as you upgrade that area, that section of Halsey Street that really isn't used right now would become very much so used, right? And it would allow for the traffic, I think, to move much more freely. Folks would be a lot more conscious of it. And right now, the schools are kind of just allowed to do whatever it is that they want to do. And there would be a check to that, because there's another property owner saying, hey, we can't do that. As you all know, one of the charter schools is a part of Teachers Village. So it doesn't behoove the ownership to tell them that they can't have those buses just stop in the middle of the street. But for another owner, it would make a lot of sense to do that and to come up with a solution moving forward. But to your point about additional parking, right? Again, this area of downtown Newark still has what I believe, when you look at the city's new updated master plan, is trying to get away from and eliminate many of these surface parking lots, but they still exist. And the largest of the cities will still exist with the development of this building. Right now, this is a vacant building that is dilapidated. What we know as Jays, most of us don't realize that the roof has collapsed. It actually is a dangerous building there right now that will be coming down. And we are scheduled to try to get this building down sooner rather than later and to start the development process, which will automatically help the traffic flow. I'm grateful that the city has brought in an internal engineer from New York City whose career has been in getting these types of building built in very condensed areas, probably even more condensed than what we have here. And we'll be able to lend that to the process as we move forward. As the planner, Mr. Barry, said, we will continue to have conversations with engineering and traffic to make sure that this works in the best interest of the city.
Commissioner Jordan.
Right. Hello. When do you expect to start this project? And when can we anticipate? Because, you know, it was very hard seeing, as all the other board members have said, where this project we were so excited about did not come to fruition and stayed there vacant for quite a long time. We don't want to go into that same thing again.
Right. Yeah, so we're anticipating immediately to get into the ground. These are the same developers on 200 Market. So if you see they got approvals, just simply after preliminary approvals, the building was demolished. We finally have final approvals, and we've gotten permits for the building. So in similar fashion, we expect this to be built immediately. So we do not expect a delay here at all. Nor are we dealing with I think we've all learned that the last owner of the building proposed a lot of things that never happened. This particular developer has built every building that they've proposed to the city so far. So I expect that to continue here.
And Teachers Village does utilize the parking lot for their residents. They have a portion of the parking lot is strictly for Teachers Village.
Commissioner Jordan, which lot?
The one on the corner, I think, of Washington and Halsey, across the street from Teachers Village.
All right.
Or William and one of those.
That's what it is.
I know it's when you're talking about, but it was approved without parking.
Listen, I'm just listening to all of my parking spots being absorbed. That's what I'm hearing, because that's my cut right there. That's strict. Commissioner Baez.
Yes, thank you, Martina. I just have a comment that I'd like to add, and a question, actually. My question is, Mr. Shoulder, did you have anybody in common, like who's going to managing those projects? This one, actually, the one from before, I forgot to mention it yet, but was the same project pretty much. I'm asking you, did you have anybody specific that's going to run this project as a manager wise? Percentages actually of local residents that you're going to have it for Newark working in there? If you can please answer me that question.
That's a very legal question, so I'm not going to ask Mr. Vicio to answer that question. We will comply with the city's affirmative action laws as we have. I think you can see this developer has a history of compliance with the city's affirmative action laws. So that's not only hiring Norkers to work on these jobs, right? But having Norkers who are owners of the businesses that are brought on to work on these jobs, which I think is a critical element to this as well. They have 100% compliance with working with the city's affirmative action office, and will continue to when it comes to this particular project. I think did I answer all of your question, Mr.
Pretty much, yes, pretty much. But I also like to add that I have a very experience on this project from before. As you know, we've been working together for quite almost 10 years. As a commissioner, I went through some type of issues with that we have, not to bring it to this board, but I like to see a bigger percentages of local residents who doing those jobs, because back in the days, I remember that people used to bring it, all those people from Ohio, Los Angeles to do a job. And I believe that this is the city of Newark. I believe it's like what they say, whatever you do in Vegas, it stays in Vegas. But I believe it the same way in Newark. Okay.
So I think I would like to just note that this particular developer, if you were to put on another hat of theirs, they bought a local Newark-owned steel company to be able to build these, so that they were all actually sourcing from here in the city of Newark, not only the employees that work at what was formerly known as just Pershing Steel, right? I believe it's KS Pershing these days. So you get a little bit more. You're getting manufacturing that is happening for the purpose of this building with Newark residents here. You also have the lumber, right? The lumber yard that was purchased by this developer, that is a Newark lumber yard with Newark employees that is also being utilized to help build this building. So there's been a vertical stack that has been created that ensures that Newarkers on almost every single aspect of this project would be utilized to the best of this developer's ability, with it being almost a homegrown Newark development company with all the verticals that go along with that. Now, if you take that and go a little bit further with Concrete Systems, is the only concrete company that is capable of doing this type of project. That too is a Newark-based company, right? And some of the issues that we run into where we would be able to get more is sometimes you're forced to use union labor in areas where the unions are the ones who are not necessarily using Newark labor. That is a very touchy situation that we play with. But given this particular developer, when we start talking about steel, lumber, not only contractors who are going to be working on the jobs, right, but the back end folks, right? I'll be the one to tell you they came to me, the Newark-based law firm, right? So they have a history, a proven track record over the last several years, 7 to 8 years, to not only build every project that's been approved, but they've gone out of their way in order to make sure that their Newark-based numbers are better on every single job from one job to the next. And they are hiring people not just for construction projects on their projects, but because they've actually purchased a vertical here in Newark, they're ensuring the jobs of people that will, whoever's building in our city, if you're buying local lumber, what you will need to do in order to hit your affirmative action, you're going to be buying it from this group. If you're going to be buying local steel to hit your numbers, you're going to be buying it from this group. So they have more than done what the city has asked for local developers to do in that instance. And I believe that they're committed to doing even more. I mean, the investment has been tremendous to ensuring that Norkers are employed by this on the front end and the back end.
Thank you. I like that. But there's also other thing, and Madam Chair, I'm sorry that maybe I went a little too far. But I'm also like to add that all those development who comes to the city of Newark, you guys are the one who making the money, right? Everybody, pitching and come up with something. But I also in the future like to see they come out with some community engagement on their project. And outside, actually, which is the city of Newark. You're from Newark. You was raised in Newark, and that's how I feel now. With all my respect, yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. But I would like to just note for the record, when it comes to this particular group, that they have availed themselves to the different nonprofit organizations in the city. Obviously, not every single one, But they've been good community members, right? Where they've invested in different little leagues, basketball organizations, different nonprofit organizations that have asked for help, right? So they've been as much of a community member as you can ask for a corporate entity to be, including moving their offices downtown Newark. So I think on this one, you know, I don't think I'm stretching myself, right? We want people to come in and invest wholeheartedly here in the city. And we have developers here today that are presenting projects before you today and tomorrow, by the way, that have made that investment, the type of investment that we typically don't see. They have not come in and built one project and left. They started by building smaller projects in the Ironbound. They've worked their way to some of the largest projects in the city and have a history of getting them in the ground. And they're doing that with Norkers. And they haven't forgot about the other aspects of our city. Our children have been affected by them being here because they've seen the benefit. If you go up to where Castlander is, which they now own in Castlander, that community's remained employed. They have done give backs in that community. So this is, you know, the block parties that happen in that neighborhood. It's a very tight-knit community. They've become a part of that community and not just business owners who have walked away. So I'd love to, Commissioner Baez, bring you to their offices or to some of their businesses that are part of their vertical stack so you can see how Norkers, everyday Norkers that are from the communities that the community that me and you are in, how they actually benefit from these developers day in and day out, whether they're actually on one of their development sites or not.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Madam Chair, and it makes sense. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Were you saying something, Commissioner Purdy?
Yes, I applaud all you said. All the things they're doing is a beautiful thing. But that's a big project for that corner.
Yes.
It's tremendous, right? And just going back to the conversation that Commissioner Baez initiated, it's wonderful to sponsor activities and teams and such, but we also, you know, what's important is to talk about partnership, right? Business partnerships, and perhaps I'm just putting it in the air. I know it's not the purview of this.
I will note we haven't seen
but-
the architecture yet.
Right, the schools, like how do we bring the young people in so that they understand not only how to get on a union trade job, but how do they become builders, right? How do they amass capital, right?
Madam
So
Chair,
that they
that
can
was
do a
that,
huge project like this.
right. Madam Chair, thank you. Yeah, that was actually what I trying to mean when I say that for them to bring in some community engagement, which is a kid is supposed to be included into it. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just note for the record, I think the Newark Public School System, if you look at the buildings that are being built now, they are building space specifically for that. There's a School of Architecture and Design that is due to open in September that is taking up this very subject matter, right? Where our children will get the opportunity. And that is by part and large with having conversations with developers like the KS Group and saying, how do we figure out a system so that there is a pipeline, right? So there will be a high school that is set to open in September dealing with this very issue. And we've challenged the unions to become a part of that as well. This particular group has no problem with working with the Newark Public School System, work within the system versus outside partnership, as that term was utilized. And I hope our unions will partner with the school district as well in this particular case. But this developer has, and I believe will continue to.
Thank you. Then your next professional.
Thank you. Murat, you're up.
Good evening.
I think he's still sworn in,
You're
Mr.
still
Beck.
sworn. You can proceed with your testimony.
Good evening. Good evening. So we're presenting a two-tower scheme that has 712 units, a little less than 2,000 square feet of commercial space, and 300 parking spaces. Same slide as we had in the previous presentation without other projects in downtown. And the location of the site with an aerial view with the Prudential Center. And I guess the nearest under construction project that is high-rise is the Halo Towers at that spot, and the Summit Tower that was mentioned with KS Group would be built at that location. The podium is, the footprint is covering the lot and the two towers are setback. The living downtown has a setback requirement from Halsey Street above the podium level, which we're providing. This project is also located in the Four Corners Historic District. So we presented the project, the exterior design to the Historic Commission. We've received their approval on this project as presented in the scheme that was also submitted to the planning board. Just some inspirational photos from other projects that we presented to the Historic Commission, other high rises in the Four Corners District with articulated facades, setback geometries, and sort of an articulated roof line, arch windows and storefronts, and ornamental metal cladding details at storefront level. And then also we've taken inspiration from the existing building that is currently on site, which is approved to be demolished due to their structural issues. So we've taken these sort of motifs from the existing building and sort of integrated to the ornamental elements of our project. Some fluted sort of panels at these column elevations on the existing building. We've sort of articulated that in our project at a sort of bigger scale at this high-rise project. And then we've taken inspiration from other sort of metal glass panel materials in the context and the geometries as described. And as mentioned, the building is set back from the podium faces just to sort of create a sort of contextual base that is similar height to the other projects in the neighborhood, but then the towers rise above the podium. And then a representation of the articulated roof line as it relates to the other high rises in downtown. And one of the requirements by the board, the historic board, was to sort of match the roof lines or be just a little shy of the roof line of 744 Broad Street building. So these buildings are two towers are located over a podium that has retail, parking, and a unique condition that other buildings in the city doesn't have, and it's one of the it's our only project with a bridge that connects two towers in the city. That bridge would have an amenity level with an indoor level and an outdoor swimming pool level right on top of it. It would be a unique condition and definitely an Instagrammable feature for the residents in the building. The cellar has parking spaces, as mentioned by the other professionals. We do have a similar setup to the other projects in terms of parking configuration. There is valet operators, so the residents would sort of come into these stacking spaces. They'll park and go into the lobby. The valet will take their cars and take the elevators, go up. We've studied multiple options, just as an information to the board: automated parking, semi-automated parking. This is by far the most efficient and cost-effective way of running a parking garage in an urban setting. And then as you go up, we have more amenity spaces. This is an amenity level that looks down to the lobby. And then there are two-story high podium levels with parking levels. And then right above the podium, we have an amenity level and also an outdoor space that connects these two amenity spaces at the base of these two towers. I think there was a comment in the previous hearing about a number of elevators. The elevator count and size is a science to itself. We have consultants that help with sizing the cabs and also determining the speed of these elevators. So at this scale building, this project is 3 3,500-pound cars, because each building is about 356 units, so that accommodates and the density and the height that is given in this project. The other project had 4 elevators because it was a more density and more height. So these are engineered. So the board should not have any doubt about the capacity of these proposed elevators. And they're also suitable for fire department access to service any floor. There was a comment from the public. The fire department would not take the stairs, they'll take the elevators to go up to a high-rise level to suppress a fire. That's the bridge level. You see that outdoor space with the swimming pool. And at the street level, that's Halsey Street and William Street. You can see the sort of the arch, the windows that is contextual to that historic district, and the ornamental metal that was proposed and approved by the Historic Commission. And aerial views of the project and Newark skyline. This is the Summit Tower that we mentioned that is to be built as well, and our 2-tower project that we're discussing at this time. And again, the skyline with the Summit Tower and Halo Towers on the left, with the sky bridge that is visible in this perspective. And a street level nighttime view with this sort of articulated facade and sort of the illuminated interiors, with sort of a life to itself with the residents within it. And more aerial views showing what is to be developed in the back. I think this image is really to show that Newark has more room to grow. This is just the beginning of that enlargement and execution of the living downtown zoning ordinance. And then the drawings that were submitted to the planning board, which has the elevations with dimensions and heights represented along with the material types. Typically, these projects would have like a mechanical floor at a mid-level, and you'll see in our tower projects with sort of louvers at mid-level of the tower that has grills for exhaust and fresh air intake to service the apartments. More views of the elevations, and then amenities that is presented with the gym spaces, lounge spaces in the building. Again, this is also a project that would comply with the green infrastructure requirements of the city's ordinance, and will comply with the bird-friendly glass requirements. And this is a building that is going to be fully compliant with the fire code, with the building code in terms of life safety, as well as suitable for fire access. And I would end my direct testimony with this skyline rendering. Council.
Thank you, Murat. Madam Chair.
Commissioners, if you
Madam
have a
Chair.
question, please raise your hand.
Madam Chair, if I may, Mr. Sauter, if we could mark this.
Yes, the Exhibit A1.
Thank
Thank you for the packet.
Same amount of slides, Mr.
37 slides.
37, thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Murat Mutula? No questions? Can you share the apartment mix in this building, please?
I can.
Yes, ma'am. It has 196 studios, 272 1-bedrooms, 216 2-bedrooms, and 28 3-bedrooms, for a total of 712 units. From an affordability standpoint, studios and ones, there will be 30. There will be 86 2-bedrooms and 33 bedrooms, for a total of 146 affordable units.
And affordable at that stratification 40, 60, 80 that you mentioned.
That is correct. It will be 100% IZO compliant.
What are the amenities outside of the pool and the sky bridge?
We have resident lounge, we have gym, kids room, and then there are changing areas for the pool area, outdoor terraces with barbecue.
What was the other question? With regards to the trees, I saw trees at the ground and I saw trees above the Sky Bridge, but I also believe I heard testimony that it's so shady that we couldn't do street trees on Chapel Street. Can anyone speak to how these trees on the interior of the building are supposed to survive?
Building, the bridge level has a planting bed area. Also, the podium roof has a planting area that we could have trees, which is also represented in the renderings and the floor plans. In relation to the site trees, I would defer that to our civil engineers.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? No? All right. I guess we're going to be calling Mr. McDonough. Thank you, Mr. Mu'u.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think he's still sworn in.
Yeah, you're still sworn.
Go for it, John.
Hello again, everyone. For the record, John McDonough, project planner. We're looking at a site here that I'm going to enter as A2 for the record, Carissa, and we'll get you a copy of this, which shows the subject property with the little red flag in close proximity to the project that you just heard, which was right next to City Hall. We're over here on Williams, Chapel, and Halsey. Again, repurposing a developed site, redevelopment, something that's been approved for large-scale development. This is going to create a new, modern, attractive anchor of the corner in response to contemporary market demand, and certainly advance the goals and purposes of the Living Downtown redevelopment plan. The relief here is very, very similar to that which you just heard on the prior project. Primary relief is for parking. We have a similar justification here through Andrew's testimony that the supply will meet the actual demand in a transit-rich area with some of those offsets by parking available in the area as well. Also related relief in terms of the front yard setback, 2.5 being what's proposed, 0 is the maximum that's allowed. Again, given the irregular perimeter you saw in Mr. Seckler's testimony, and a design that responds in a way which is unperceivable in the public realm as being non-conforming. And then as co-chair Witcher just mentioned, we have insufficient shade trees. The number now is 7, where 11 would be required. You've heard through the testimony before me, the intent to try to relocate a pole or a light that would increase the number of trees on Chapel, so that may bring us closer to conformance. We do have some plantings in lieu of trees under the overhang, which would be provided as a mitigative measure. And then finally, similar to the last application, the excessive driveway width exceeding 20 feet is for safe circulation into and out of the building. The number of driveways, 3 versus 2. We've got that extra curb cut there for the loading area, and you heard the necessity and testimony in that regard. Purposes of zoning that are advanced here are the same as the last one. Purpose A, the promotion of the general welfare with new housing, with a permitted use, mixed use that will provide services to the community and certainly jobs. Purpose I, the promotion of a desirable visual environment, again, with a nice beacon here in the downtown. All of these buildings, these beautiful buildings that Murat has designed, are going to complement one another, respecting the past and catapulting us to the future. All are laudable purposes of the redevelopment plan. Additionally, purpose M, the promotion of a efficient use of land, and purpose G, variety of uses in appropriate locations. The last thing I will say is that there are laudable purposes in your redevelopment plan. The applicant has essentially followed the redevelopment plan to a T. Some of the core goals of the redevelopment plan that are advanced here. Number 1, encourage the creation of a more mixed-use downtown filled with activity 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. Number 2, strengthen the downtown's economic health by increasing job-producing activities. Number 3, improve the image of the downtown by promoting and implementing design excellence and sustainability in its buildings and the public realm. And number 5, attract thousands of new residents and encourage the creation of a variety of housing opportunity for people of all income levels. Lastly, number 6, reduce the dependence on the car and increase the usage of public, pedestrian, and bicycle transit. With that, I think the applicant has clearly met the mark here, complying with your use, your density, your height controls, all of those important and laudable controls in the redevelopment plan, certainly advancing the intent and purposes that I just read off to you. With that, it's another excellent project for the city, and the criteria for approval are met. With that, I would pause and offer that approval is certainly warranted here.
Thank you, Mr. McDonough. Commissioners, comments, questions? All right, seeing none, if there are any members of the public that have any questions, comments, you'll have 3 minutes to raise your hand. *9 if you're calling in.
Seeing no members of the public wishing to speak, Madam Chair.
All righty then. So at this time, I would like to call for a motion with regards to this application. Again, with the conditions.
Moving it with the condition, Madam Chair.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, moved by Commissioner Baez with conditions, seconded by Commissioner Timmons with the aforementioned conditions. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Commissioner Jordan,
2 yeses.
Commissioner Purdy, Commissioner Purdy. I'm sorry. Can you say that a little louder, bit, Commissioner Purdy?
You hear me?
There we go. Can you say it again? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Baez,
Double yes, also.
Commissioner Timmons,
Yes.
Commissioner De Silva,
Yes.
Commissioner James, Commissioner James. Commissioner Mark is absent.
Oh, there
Oh,
he
there we
is.
go. Commissioner James.
Can you hear me?
We didn't hear your vote. Go ahead.
Okay. We
Yeah.
have a thumbs up. Yes. Thank you. Commissioner Austin.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes, your application has been approved, and we look forward to seeing it come to fruition with those partnerships. All right.
We appreciate you all. Thank you so very much. I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow night, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
Tomorrow night.
Mr. Betts, do we have to do any business on your end?
No, there's no minutes, at least not that I'm aware of, but
No
no
resolutions.
Yeah,
All right.
we're
So
good to go.
tomorrow, 6 p.m.
Hold a minute. Secretary, you have both my yeses, please?
For the first one,
Yes.
so I'm gonna stop the recording. The meeting is adjourned, correct?
No,
Madam
we
Chair?
didn't even do that, did we?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna go back to Commissioner Jordan.
All right. We're voting to close the meeting. Yes, the meeting is adjourned. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, the meeting's closed.
Recording
stopped.
Good evening. See you tomorrow, everyone.
Commissioner Jordan.
Yeah, Commissioner Jordan. Only reason I stopped the recording because I know Chair Richardson was supposed to make a announcement to the members. If you are not present visually and you don't respond, we're not counting the vote as we can't. Because on record, you weren't.
I stepped away and y'all took a vote. That was quick.
Completely understand it. You're not the first commissioner that has addressed or had this concern, but unfortunately, due to the record, we can't put a vote in.
I'm good.
Okay.
Six
But that's for all commissioners, just in case it ever happens.
Okay. Let me
Okay.
try that one. All right. See you guys tomorrow.
Have a good night.
Good night.